Hi! Within this section, we're going to learn how to be anonymous online when we use Kali Linux. Maybe you have dealt with VPNs and DNS servers before, but it's a little bit different in Kali Linux, and we're going to see how to do those kind of stuff in Linux as well. And after this section, you will be able to edit DNS configurations and use VPN books in Kali Linux. So now if you're ready, let's get started.
Hi! Within this section, we're going to learn how to stay anonymous when we go online. And before we do that, we need to understand how networks work actually in order to comprehend better what we are doing. So let me tell you all about it. So suppose that you're in your home and you're connected to your router. So you have different phones or tablets or computers in your home, right? And they're all connected to the router and they are all connecting to the internet through that router. And when you go to the internet and search for anything in Google, for example, you're sending a request from your phone to your router, and router forwards this request to the internet and gets back a response and forwards that response to your device. So this device has some local IP like 192.168.0.10, and this IP is assigned to that device by router actually. As you can see, every device has its own local IP. And router has its own local IP like 192.168.0.1. But if these devices are connected to the router directly, they will have 192.168, but if they are on a NAT network, like in our case, they will have an IP of 10.02.15. This doesn't have to be necessarily that way, but this is general convention and you will come across this situation most of the time. So if you try to get your own local IP on your own computer, you will end up with a number like this. And if you try to get the local IP from your virtual machine, you will end up with a local IP like this. But the important part is that this router has also a public IP. You may know your public IP by going to the google.com and searching for what is my IP. This is the IP address that hackers try to change when they go online. This is the IP address that you must not share with anyone. And this is the IP address you have to change when you try to go to a blocked website by your internet provider, and this is the IP that you may want to change when you try and do some penetration testing. So you're about to change the public IP using some virtual private networks within the next lectures. So VPN stands for virtual private network, and you're going to use some other server to connect to the internet and make your IP look like another. And this IP is the public IP, as I said before. You may go to Google right now and try to see your own public IP. I'm not going to show you mine, but I can show you my local IP, and you can follow me how to learn your local IP as well. You have to go to your Kali Linux machine, for example, and if you type ifconfig here like we did before, it will show you something called ETH0, and this is your internet interface. Okay, you're connected to the internet by a wired connection supposedly, so you're using NAT network right now, and this is a wired connection between the Kali Linux and the host machine. So host machine is actually the router at this point, and you have the IP address of 10.02.15. Of course, this number may differ in your case, but it really doesn't matter. This is your local IP. So you can try to learn your public IP, like I said, by going to google.com and searching for what is my IP. So within this section, we're going to search for ways to hide this public IP and try to go to the internet using another servers, another public IPs. So let's stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to learn how to do that. Hi, within this lecture we're going to understand the usage of DNS. So we have talked about the IP addresses, we have briefly talked about virtual private networks as well, but we didn't talk about DNS. So DNS stands for Domain Name System, okay, or Domain Name Server. So it allows us to connect the domain name with the IP address, okay? So websites have IP addresses as well. So google.com actually has its own IP, or facebook.com actually has its own IP as well. And when we type google.com to a browser, it finds the IP address, it matches the IP with the domain name and try to go to that IP address. And this matching thing is done with DNS servers. So generally, when you go to the internet, when you browse the internet, your internet provider's DNS server do that for you. And even if you change the VPN, even if you use a VPN and try to change your public IP, there's a risk that your internet provider knows what you're doing because of the DNS server thing. So sometimes it's safer to change these DNS servers as well. And in order to confirm this, in order to show you in action, I'm going to go to my virtual machine once more. I'm going to clear this. Suppose that you're trying to go to Google. I'm going to use a command called ping. It will send one request to the google.com and it will tell me the result back. So I'm going to say ping google.com and hit enter. As you can see, I'm getting some results. Anytime you may want to go out of that, hit Ctrl+C on your keyboard at the same time. It will stop the current process in your terminal. As you can see, we are sending some ping request to the Google and it gives me back some new responses. And here is that the Google's public IP. So when I type google.com to my browser, it goes to this public IP. So you can know the public IPs of web addresses by typing ping google.com, ping facebook.com. Not every website actually lets us do this, but most of them do. So you may want to know the public IP of some web address for some reason. For example, we're going to do some web penetration testing later on through the course, and you're going to need this when you do that. But what I'm trying to do right now, what I'm trying to tell you is these websites have their own IP addresses and we use DNS to match them with the domain names. So I'm going to stop here, but within the next lecture we're going to see how to change these domain servers and then later on introduce VPN in order to change our public IP address. Within this lecture, we're going to learn how to change our DNS servers in Kali Linux. And in order to do that, I'm going to first show you how to get our current status of DNS. Maybe you remember that we use cat command to get the contents of a file. So I'm going to cat this file, etc.resolve.conf. You have to exactly write like this, etc.resolve.conf, and it gives you the current DNS server in your Kali machine. As you can see, it says name server 192.168.1.1. And we're going to change some file, and after that we're going to run this cat command once more in order to understand whether it's changed or not. But bear in mind that it won't always work. Sometimes when you change the DNS address, it won't get effective immediately, but rather it gets effective after you introduce VPN to the system. I know it's a little bit complicated, but don't worry about it. I'm going to show you one step at a time. So in this first step, we're going to change our DNS inside of Kali Linux. In order to do that, we're going to change a file, and in order to change this file, we are using a command called nano. So nano is actually something like livepad, okay? It allows us to edit files. It's kind of a livepad, but it has some other features as well. So follow me by writing this nano etc dhcp dhclient.conf, and it has to be exact again, nano space etc dhcp dhclient.conf. If you write this wrong, then it won't open it. Okay, it has to be exactly like same in here. And we're using nano, and we're using nano to edit this file. As you can see now, I see the content of etc dhcp dhclient.conf. So this is a configuration file for our DH client. We can change this configuration in order to change our name servers. So you can use arrows right now in order to move around this nano editor. As you can see, as I press down, it goes down. As I press up, it goes up. And I'm looking for a line starting with prepend. Like here, prepend domain name servers 127.0.0.1. First, you have to delete this hash here. It means that this is a command and it won't get run unless you delete it. Don't forget to delete this hash. After you delete, it will start to get run once we save this file. So after this domain name servers, we're going to add some new values here. So I'm pressing shift, or you can go to the end of this file and delete everything, but there is a semicolon at the end. You must not delete it, okay? You have to delete only the 127.0.0.1 thing. And right now I'm going to find some new DNS servers. In order to do that, I'm going to use old friend Google. So open the Safari and search for DNS servers, okay? I'm going to search for free open DNS servers because there are some paid DNS servers as well, but I'm looking for a free one. So if you do this, let me close this pop-up windows from here, okay? And as you can see, we have a lot of options in here. There is a public DNS server list, there is an open DNS, best free public DNS servers. There are a lot of options. And let me choose one and try them, right? Let me click on this open DNS. And after that, let me maximize these windows so we can see it better. And actually it says me change to English. I believe it's made this query in another language. So let me go to OpenDNS one more time to see some results. And maybe it got your attention that we already have some results in here, like Google DNS, DNS Watch, and others as well. But let me go into this website and see the whole list so we can search we can select from one another. So let me scroll down and try to find some new DNS servers for me. As you can see, now we have some results, we have some providers, and we have some primary DNS servers. So I'm going to use them and I'm going to just try them. Of course, I can change anytime I want, right? If they're not active, I can change. And I can use up to 3 DNS servers at one time. So I'm going to actually include 3 of them. It will be more effective. So if one doesn't work, the system will go for another automatically. So copy it with Ctrl+C and come here and paste it with Ctrl+V, or just right-clicking in here, and you have to add a comma after this and leave one space. You can then copy the another one, okay, this very sign one, and go to root Kali again and paste it and add one more comma and one more space. And I'm going to copy this Google thing, and this Google thing has been active for like years, so you can safely use it anytime. So we now added 3 DNS servers. Now we have to write out, so you have to click Ctrl and O, and it will ask you to hit enter. After you hit enter, you can go out of this nano editor with Ctrl+X, okay? So after you hit Ctrl+X, now we managed to change this dhclient.conf. So in order to test this, I'm going to say service network manager, okay, and restart. So this will restart my internet connection. Whenever you got stuck at a point that you're not connecting to the internet or something, you may try to reboot your computer, or you may try this command, service network manager restart. Now I'm going to cat this etcresolve.conf to see if my configuration has been really changed. Now as you can see, I have my new DNS servers in here. But as I mentioned before, if you don't see these name servers, don't worry, it will come after you introduce the VPN like we do in the next lecture. But if you see them, it means that these name servers are now changed, and the system will try this one, and it fails, it will go to the second one, and it fails, it will go to the third one. So we have a good safe DNS setup right now. And of course we have to test this to see if we really have the internet connection right now. In order to do that, I'm going to just ping google.com to see if we get a response back. As you can see, now I have a response back. So we can stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to see how to change our public IP with VPN usage. Hi! Within this lecture, we're going to see how to use VPN within Kali Linux. As you might remember, we changed our DNS server within the previous lecture, and before we go on and use the VPN, we have to disable something called WebRTC. Actually, WebRTC is used within your web browser when you try to communicate to a website, but it may leak your real public IP when you use this VPNs. So if you type about colon config and say, okay, I accept this, it will take you to the config website of your browser, and you have to search for media.peerconnection.enabled. As you can see, the value is true right now. If you double click on it, it will be false. And we want it to be false. This way we can disable the WebRTC. As I mentioned before, it works out fine. If you go to google.com, it will work out fine. But we eliminate the risk of leaking our real public IP when we use the VPN. So we turned off the WebRTC. Now the next thing we do is to find a VPN book. So in order to do that, I'm going to Google free VPN book. Okay? So we use VPN books within Kali Linux in order to use VPN services. So there are a lot of websites for that. I'm going to use this vpnbook.com. So this is mainly working. And of course, you may want to browse the other websites as well. But I generally use this vpnbook.com and it works. And under this vpnbook.com, there is something called OpenVPN, and we want that. Okay, let me maximize this so you can see it better. Under OpenVPN, there are a lot of servers, and we have to choose one and download it and try them. So I'm going to choose some Germany VPN from here, or US VPN. You can choose your own country, as you can see. You may want to connect from Canada, you may want to connect from US. It really doesn't matter, but sometimes specifically you may want to connect from US. Then you can choose this US one. Okay? And of course they don't always work, so you may want to try another one if they don't. So after you click one of them, just say save file, and it will download this zip file for us. It's a very small file, 9 kilobytes, so it will be downloaded instantly. So let me close this down and let me go back to my downloads folder. Okay, of course we can do it from terminal, right? I can go to downloads by typing cd downloads, and if I say ls, then I will see the zip file. I can use unzip command to unzip this VPN book. If I type VPN and hit tab, it will autocomplete for me, and if I hit enter, it will just unzip it for me. If you type ls, you will see the contents of this file. And we have some files with OVPN extensions, and these are the OpenVPN books that I was talking about. As you can see, we have 4 of them in which zip. So these are the TCP and UDP connections. These are just the protocols that we will later on in this course learn what they are all about. But they are different protocols, but they do the same thing. They connect to the internet. And you can try any of them whenever you want. Okay, you can try the TCP, you can try the UDP, it doesn't matter. And in order to try this, you have to type OpenVPN and VPN book name. Okay, so in my example, I'm going to try this VPN book US1 TCP 443 OVPN. And of course, you have to spell that out correctly. After you hit enter, it will ask you for a username and a password. And I wish I didn't close the website, but I believe we can find it one more time. So let me go to VPN. Yeah, it was vpnbook.com. If you go to vpnbook.com to OpenVPN tab from here, it should say the username and the password. And as you can see, the username is vpnbook and the password is this. And this password changes all the time, so you have to find your own password, okay? You have to look it from the website, not from the video. So I'm going to type vpnbook, and I'm going to type the password here as well. So after I do that, I will hit enter, and it will run the VPN for me, okay? So if it fails, then you have to check the password, and if it's really connect and if it's not working, then you have to try the other TCP and UDP VPN books that you have downloaded, and if it doesn't work as well, then you have to find another VPN book from the same website and from the other websites. So let me test this connection by going google.com. Of course, it would be slower than your original connection, but as you can see now it works. Now let me test and see if it really changed my public IP address. Best way to do that is to type what is my IP to Google. If you type what is my IP and hit enter, it will show you your current public IP. As you can see, I have this 198.168.622.04. And this is not my original public IP, so it's really changed. In order to confirm that, I'm going to search for some test, and it's called DNS leakage test, okay? DNS leakage test. So if you search for it, there is a website called dnsleaktest.com. Of course, there are other websites as well. You can try all of them. If you go to this dnsleaktest.com, it will show you your current location and your public IP. I'm not in the United States right now and I don't have this public IP. So this VPN really works for me right now. And I changed my DNS, now I'm completely anonymous. But bear in mind that there is no thing such as 100% anonymity. And I accidentally closed this website, so let me open it one more time. Okay, so as I was saying, there is no guarantee that you won't be found in the internet. So don't trust your VPN or DNS. The officials, when you commit a crime, can track you down anyway. Okay, so whether you use very good VPNs, whether you use very hidden DNS servers, it really doesn't matter. Don't try to do something unethical. Okay, so this is an ethical hacking course. And if you click on standard test or extended test here, it shows you whether your real public IP will occur or not, whether it's leaking or not. But I believe this is good to go right now, so I'm not gonna do that. You can do it on your own. So let's stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to learn how to browse dark web.
Hi, now you know how to use VPN books, how to change DNS records in Kali Linux. And within the next section we're going to discuss how to browse in dark web. And you will need this VPN book information most probably in the next section. And you're not gonna use any VPN books afterwards, but since dark web is a little bit difficult to reach using conventional methods, most probably you will need these VPN books. So now if you're ready, let's meet in the next section.